When Jungkook's future son appears in the middle of a live concert, reality shatters. A secret buried for years now threatens everything he holds dear. "He knows," the boy whispered, drenched in rain, staring at Jungkook from the edge of the stage. "And he's coming for us both." The lights had just dimmed. Thunder rumbled through the open stadium as tens of thousands of army screamed in electric anticipation. Jungkook, center stage, stood bathed in crimson light, his breath misting in the cold air. The final note of "My Time" had barely echoed into silence when the boy appeared barefoot, soaked and trembling, as if he had stepped out of a fever dream and into a nightmare. For a split second, no one moved. The music cut off. The screens flickered. Jungkook's chest tightened. He knew that face. The shape of the jaw, the defiant arch of the brow. But it was the eyes, those impossible eyes, that rooted him in place. Mirrors of his own. "Security!" a voice barked from the sidelines. But Jungkook raised a hand. The boy was no threat. He was a message. "Who are you?" Jungkook asked, though part of him already knew. He asked not as a global superstar, but as a man haunted by what he had once tried to forget. The boy took a slow step forward, eyes wild with panic. "I don't have time. He knows I found you. He knows everything." The crowd, confused, murmured in waves, but Jungkook couldn't hear them. Not over the pulse in his ears. Not over the crackling dread rising inside his chest. The boy held something out, a necklace, old and tarnished. The same one Jungkook had thrown into the Han River 10 years ago. "Where did you get that?" Jungkook's voice dropped. "You gave it to my mother," the boy said, voice breaking, "before she died." The stadium lights exploded into darkness. Screams, then silence. Backstage was chaos. The concert was canceled. The boy had vanished. Jungkook sat alone in his dressing room, hands shaking, staring at the empty space where the boy had stood. He couldn't breathe. The past, the part he had buried so deep no one could touch it, was clawing its way back. The nightmares had returned weeks ago. Visions of fire, a woman's scream, a child's hand slipping from his grasp. He thought it was guilt, grief, the cost of fame. But now, he turned to his mirror. His reflection looked older, not just tired but hunted. He reached into his coat and pulled out the crumpled photograph he had carried in secret for over a decade. A woman with bright eyes, a newborn wrapped in hospital blue. No names, no context, just the last piece of a puzzle Jungkook had never dared finish. He had once loved her, wildly, secretly, when the world demanded he be someone else. But she disappeared. No goodbyes, no answers. And now, her son, his son, was standing in the eye of a storm Jungkook never meant to wake. As he stepped into the hallway, flashes of memory assaulted him. A government car, a shattered phone, the envelope stamped with the Ministry of Time. He had thought it was over, that his silence had been enough to keep them away. But the boy's words echoed again. "He knows." Jungkook's manager found him in the corridor, pale and wide-eyed. "You need to come, now." In the underground level of the stadium, the surveillance team replayed the footage. The boy had never passed security. No gates, no entrances, no thermal trace. One moment the space was empty. The next he was there. And in the frame behind him, distorted by static, stood a second figure. Tall, watching, face obscured by shadow, but unmistakably real. Jungkook leaned closer. The figure's outline shimmered as if cut from the wrong decade. "This isn't possible," someone muttered. But Jungkook wasn't listening anymore. He was already thinking of her last message, the one she had sent in code and buried in a melody no one else could decipher. "Protect him. If they find him, they'll find you. And if they find you, they find the key." The key. Jungkook clenched the necklace in his fist, heart thundering. This wasn't just about a lost child. It was about a buried secret. A time-bent war. A father's promise. And for the first time in years, Jungkook knew exactly what he had to do. He would find the boy. He would uncover the truth, even if it meant burning down everything he had built to protect it. "I didn't ask to be born," the boy spat, blood running from a cut above his brow. "But you made sure I was forgotten." The room pulsed with tension, the kind that made the walls feel too close and the air too thin. Jungkook stared at him across the flickering motel room lamp, the dim light casting sharp shadows across both their faces. Rain lashed the windows behind them like fists against glass. The boy Min refused to cry, but his knuckles were white from gripping the arms of the chair, every muscle in his body trembling with unspoken rage. "I didn't know," Jungkook said, voice low, rough from a night with no sleep and a heart too full. "I swear to you, if I had known, but you did." Min's eyes narrowed. "Maybe not at first, but later, when she sent the letter, when she disappeared, you knew something wasn't right, and you let it happen." Silence cracked between them like lightning. Jungkook felt it in his bones, the guilt, the shame, the helplessness that had clung to him for over a decade. He looked at Min, not just as a ghost from his past, but as his flesh and blood. The same jaw, the same fire in the eyes, but that fire was warped now, hardened by abandonment. "I was being watched," Jungkook said quietly. "After I came back from Japan, after the tour, I wasn't allowed to talk to her. I wasn't allowed to ask questions. She disappeared because they made her disappear." Min tilted his head. "And you just obeyed? Like a good little soldier?" "I was trying to protect her." "You failed." Jungkook stood abruptly, the chair scraping back against the wood floor. "You think I don't know that? You think I haven't thought about it every day for the past 12 years? I tried to find her. I tried, damn it. But every door was locked. Every trace of her life erased." Min stood, meeting him toe to toe. "She died alone. Do you even know how? Or do you just tell yourself she left because it's easier than admitting you were a coward?" That hit like a punch to the ribs. Jungkook didn't flinch, but his eyes betrayed the wound. He turned away, breathing hard. "I was 19, he whispered. "I didn't have power. I had handlers, contracts, cameras in every corner. The first time I said I wanted to marry her, they sent me to Los Angeles for 8 months. When I said I didn't care about the consequences, the threat started." Min blinked, caught off guard. "Threats? Not to me. To her. To the baby." Jungkook's voice shook. "The company, the government, they couldn't afford the scandal. They said she was disposable. I said no. I went public almost. I was ready to burn it all down. Then what stopped you? They showed me what would happen if I did." Jungkook pulled up the sleeve of his shirt. There, just below the elbow, was a faded scar, small, almost unnoticeable. But Min stared at it like it screamed. "They made it look like a car accident," Jungkook said. "It wasn't. That night, I realized if I fought, I would lose. Not just my career, everything, everyone." Min sat down again, slower this time, his fury giving way to something more brittle. "So you disappeared instead. From her. From me. I thought she was safe," Jungkook said. "Until the letter came." He walked to his bag, pulled out the wrinkled envelope. Min watched as Jungkook handed it to him with a reverence usually reserved for sacred things. Inside was a note, just 3 lines, written in trembling handwriting. "He knows. Protect the key. Forgive me." Min's voice cracked. "This is her writing." "I memorized it," Jungkook said softly. "Every curve, every breath between the lines." Min sat frozen, the paper shaking in his hands. For a long time, neither spoke. Then he asked, "Who is he?" Jungkook exhaled, slowly. "I don't know his name, but I know his face." He opened his phone, scrolling through encrypted files he had kept hidden for years. He found the image from the stadium footage grainy, distorted, but the shape was there, the outline of the man who had stood in the shadows behind Min. The man who shouldn't exist. "This man has followed me for over a decade," Jungkook said. "He's never aged, not once. Same face, same presence. Even my security calls him the Echo." Min stared at the image. "You think he's after me?" Jungkook's jaw tightened. "I think he always was." There was a knock at the door. Not loud, deliberate, measured. They froze. Jungkook moved silently, gesturing for Min to stay back. He reached for the gun he had tucked into his coat, an illegal one, given to him by someone from the old days, back when secrets had sharp teeth. Another knock, followed by a voice. "Jeon, Jungkook, you have something that doesn't belong to you." The door shook. "You know who I am, and you know what I've come for." Jungkook motioned for Min to move into the bathroom. "Lock the door. Don't open it until I say. I'm not a kid. Please." The urgency in Jungkook's voice broke something in Min. He slipped inside the bathroom, eyes never leaving his father. The door burst open. Jungkook fired once. The man stepped through the smoke untouched. "I've watched you for years," he said, voice smooth as oil. "I warned you not to look back." Jungkook backed away, heart hammering. "What do you want?" "I want what she stole. She's dead." "That was the mistake." The man smiled. "The key died with her, or so we thought. But now we have you." From behind him, more figures entered, dressed in black, faces hidden. Not police, not security. Something else. Something older. Min kicked the bathroom door open, holding a knife. "Get away from him." "Min, no!" Jungkook shouted too late. The man turned, eyes locking with Min's. For a moment, just a breath, the room changed. The air shimmered, and then Min collapsed, convulsing, screaming as the light bent around him. Jungkook lunged forward, desperate, but hands grabbed him, held him down. The man crouched beside Min, touching his forehead gently. "The key isn't just inside you, child," he whispered. "You are the key." And then everything exploded in white. Everything was gone. The motel, the rain, the room itself, obliterated in a flash of soundless white, as if time itself had inhaled too sharply and forgot to exhale. When Jungkook opened his eyes, he was no longer on the floor, no longer in Seoul, no longer now. He was standing in a hallway that stretched into nothingness, endless, seamless, cold. He staggered forward, disoriented. The floor was glass, beneath it stars. Above him, a dark ceiling that shimmered like water. A voice echoed faintly from somewhere far ahead. "Min?" Jungkook's voice cracked. "Min? Answer me." A flicker. Movement. Jungkook broke into a sprint. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew the boy was ahead. He could feel it, something paternal and primal guiding him like a compass. Then a door appeared, standing alone in the void. No walls. Just a wooden door, paint peeling, humming with a low frequency that made his teeth ache. He reached out. The moment his fingers touched the knob, the door exploded inward, and he was yanked through into memory. He gasped. He was 20 again. Hair shorter, eyes wider, sweat dripping down his neck as he looked into her face. Hana, the mother of his son. She was laughing, young, radiant, barefoot on the rooftop of his old apartment, holding a sketchbook in one hand and a cigarette in the other. Jungkook could smell the summer on her skin. He could feel the ache in his chest, the joy he hadn't let himself remember in years. "Do you believe in fate?" she asked him then, the memory echoing around him, more real than a dream. "No," Jungkook whispered, his own voice overlapping his younger self's. "I believed in you." Suddenly, she looked up, this time not at the younger Jungkook, but directly at him. His breath caught. Her expression was mournful. "They're using time against us," she said. "You were never supposed to find him, but he broke the loop. Now they'll never stop hunting him." "Hana, what is he?" Jungkook stepped forward, but she backed away. "He's not a key," she said, tears forming in her eyes. "He's the lock. They need him to open something that should never be opened." A thunderclap cracked through the rooftop. Blood ran down her temples suddenly, inexplicably. She was fading. "Wait, don't go." Jungkook reached for her, but she vanished in a blink, ripped away like smoke in a windstorm. He fell to his knees, gasping, his heart breaking all over again. Behind him, a slow clap began. "You still don't get it," said the voice of the man, the one from the stadium, the motel, the one who didn't age. Jungkook spun around. "Who are you?" The man stepped forward from the shadows of memory, unhurried. He wore no expression, just that endless calm that reeked of death. "I am the librarian," he said. "The what?" "I keep the shelves of time neat. I correct what goes off script. And your son is an abomination." Jungkook lunged at him, fists swinging, but they passed through the man as if through fog. "I killed you once," Jungkook hissed. "You tried," the librarian replied. "But time isn't a straight line. You broke it when you loved her. You shattered it when he was born." Jungkook's shoulders heaved, sweat beading on his forehead. "You killed her. She chose to die," the librarian said simply, "to keep him hidden from us." The hallway flickered back into view. Jungkook was pulled back into that space between worlds. In the distance, he heard Min screaming. "Let me go." Jungkook ran toward the sound. The walls twisted, time bent, and then he saw it. Min, strapped to a metallic chair inside a circular chamber. His body glowed faintly, veins like wires pulsing with blue light. Above him hovered machines Jungkook had never seen before, ancient and futuristic all at once, made of bone and glass, humming with dark purpose. A woman stood at the console, typing commands. She turned when she saw Jungkook, and his heart stopped. Hana? But no, it wasn't her. Not exactly. This woman was older, colder, her face sharper, hardened by time. But her eyes were the same. "I'm her sister," she said, voice clipped. "Dr. Jimin, you shouldn't be here." "You're alive?" Jungkook was reeling. "You worked for them?" "I work for time," she snapped. "And I've been trying to protect your son since the day he was conceived. But you led them right to him." Jungkook pointed at the machines. "Then stop this. He's just a boy. He's not just anything," she hissed. "Your son is a living paradox, a natural-born temporal anchor. He exists outside causality. Do you know what that means?" "I don't care," Jungkook said. "He's mine." She stepped back. "That's the problem. You keep choosing love over logic." Min screamed again. His body arched. The machines hissed and sparked. "I said stop!" Jungkook tore forward, adrenaline and fury turning him into a storm. He slammed into the control console, smashing the panels with his fists. Yoongi drew a gun. "Don't make me do this." Jungkook turned to her, bloodied knuckles clenched. "Go ahead," he said. "Shoot me, but you won't stop me from saving him." She hesitated. In that hesitation, the machines failed. Electricity shorted. Alarms blared. Min slumped forward, unconscious. Jungkook ran to him, tearing the restraints off. He held his son for the first time. The weight, the warmth, the unbearable reality of it. "I've got you," he whispered, voice cracking. "I've got you." Behind them, the librarian's voice echoed once more. "You can run, Jungkook, but every second you take with him is a second borrowed from the world." "I'll pay it back," Jungkook whispered, lifting Min into his arms. "No," said the librarian, appearing in the doorway. "You'll pay it forward." A blinding light surged behind them. Jungkook ran, not just through doors or corridors, but through time itself, backwards, sideways, into cracks that shouldn't exist, holding his son, bleeding, unbroken. And somewhere in the infinite ticking of stolen seconds, Jungkook made a vow. They would never take him again. "Not this time. You're telling me I was built to be erased?" Min's voice cracked through the dark silence of the train compartment. The old carriage groaned as it cut through a winter-coated countryside, long abandoned tracks stretching behind them like a trail of broken decisions. Outside, the snow fell sideways, sharp and angry. Inside, the air was thick, too many unspoken truths packed into too little space. Jungkook turned from the window, unable to meet Min's eyes. "You were never supposed to know." "Bullshit," Min snapped. "Don't feed me that. I deserve to know what I am." "You're not a thing," Jungkook said, his voice firm, tired. "You're my son." Min laughed, bitterly. "Your son? Since when? Since the motel? Since the glowing veins and the seizures and the secret laboratories? I didn't know. You never wanted to know." Min's voice shattered into something raw. "You saw the signs. You knew what they were doing to her. But you didn't stop it." Jungkook leaned forward. "I tried. I swear to God, I tried. But I didn't know you even existed until that letter." Min's jaw tightened, his eyes glossing over. "She told me about you. Just once. She said you were a star, and that stars are too far away to touch." Jungkook flinched. The silence that followed was thicker than the snow outside. It settled on them like dust, every second louder than the last. Then Min asked quietly, "What is the God code?" Jungkook looked away again. "Where did you hear that?" "When I was strapped to that machine. That woman, your dead girlfriend's sister, she said I was carrying it." Jungkook hesitated. "It's not a code, not exactly. It's a design." "Of what?" "Of reality." Min blinked. "What?" Jungkook reached into his coat and pulled out a folded diagram frayed at the edges, smudged with old blood. He spread it on the table between them. Strange symbols spiraled out like galaxies. Equations looped and folded in on themselves. "This," Jungkook said, "was discovered in 1998. No one knows who wrote it. No one understands all of it. but it predicts events, wars, births, extinctions before they happen. And in the center of it, there's a name. Min stared. Mine. Not your literal name, Jungkook said, but something that translates to your genetic sequence. You were written into it before you were even conceived. Min whispered. So I was programmed? Jungkook shook his head. Not programmed. Foreseen. Min's voice hardened. Same thing. The train jerked. They were slowing down. Somewhere ahead in the night, the safe house waited. But safety was relative now. The world they'd escaped didn't sleep, and time had a way of catching up. Min stood and began to pace the aisle, hands clenched, eyes burning. So, let me get this straight. My mother fell in love with a global pop icon. You got her pregnant. Someone, somewhere, found out the baby matched a prophecy or whatever the hell this is. And instead of protecting us, you let them take her. Let them experiment on me. You think I let them? Jungkook stood now, slamming his hand on the table. Do you know what it cost me to stay silent? Every time I sang to a stadium, I was screaming for her. For you, but you stayed. I survived, Jungkook hissed. So, I could find you. Min stared him down, voice cold. You waited too long. The train hissed to a halt. They had arrived. The safe house was buried beneath an abandoned church in a village swallowed by time. Inside, everything smelled like dust and iron. Low lamps lit old pews and crumbling hymn books. A heavy trapdoor groaned open at the altar, leading down into darkness. A voice greeted them at the bottom. Well, well, it said amused. The prodigal father returns. And with the godchild himself, the speaker was a man in his 60s, wiry, eyes sharp as scalpels. He wore a priest's collar over military-grade boots. Tattoos of complex formulas climbed his neck like vines. Min, Jungkook said, this is Father Kwan. He used to be a physicist, until he started worshipping numbers more than God. Kwan smiled, unbothered. Numbers never lie. God usually does. Min raised an eyebrow. And you're supposed to protect me? Kwan laughed. No, I'm here to help you choose. Min frowned. Choose what? Kwan motioned for them to follow deeper into the underground. Between becoming a weapon or becoming a grave, Jungkook grabbed Kwan's arm. He's just a boy. No, Kwan said. He's a variable, a wild card. If the government finds him, they'll plug him into the source field and drain every echo of time from his blood until the world rewrites itself around him. If we don't act first, they will. Min stopped walking. The source field? Kwan nodded. It's a temporal loop generator. It erases mistakes, wars, leaders, truths. They've used it for decades, rewriting history in loops until it fits their agenda. And I'm what, some kind of battery for it? Min asked. No, Kwan said, eyes gleaming. You're the override. Jungkook stepped in. We're not using him for anything. He's not a tool. Kwan raised an eyebrow. You think you get a say? You're the reason he exists. The rest of us are just trying to clean up your mess. Min walked away from both of them, toward the hollow chamber beyond a circular room where ancient machines hummed softly beneath stained glass embedded into concrete. He looked up. Painted above him was a mural time, unraveling like a thread. And at its center, a figure without a face, arms outstretched, holding both a child and a gun. Which one am I supposed to be? Min asked quietly. No one answered. He turned, anger trembling under his skin. Why do I feel like everyone already decided for me? Because they have, Jungkook said. But I didn't. Min looked at him, eyes searching. And what if I don't want to be special? What if I just want to be a mistake? Jungkook stepped closer, slowly. Then I'll love you anyway. Min's face contorted, emotions battling behind every sharp breath. For a heartbeat, the tension cracked. Then, an explosion rocked the church above. Screams, gunfire, the past catching up. Kwan shouted, They found us! Jungkook grabbed Min, dragging him toward the emergency exit. Lights flickered, alarms wailed. But in the smoke, through the debris, walked her. Not Hannah, not Yoongi, but a third woman, identical, yet different. Cloned, reconstructed, she raised her hand, and the entire room froze. Mid-movement, mid-breath, frozen, except for Min. And her. She smiled. "Hello, Min. I'm your mother." Min's voice was a whisper. "You died." She stepped forward. "No, I was multiplied." Then she touched his forehead, and everything went black. When Min opened his eyes, the world was silent. Not quiet silent. No mechanical hum, no human breath, no wind or gravity or God. Just an absence so deep it felt like death, but colder. He stood in a white chamber with no walls, no floor, no ceiling, just light that had no source. The woman who called herself his mother stood across from him, wearing his mother's smile, but none of her softness. Her movements were too precise, her eyes too still. "You're not her," Min said, voice hollow. "I am and I'm not," she replied. Hannah was version 1. She lived, she loved, she bled. But she was just the beginning. I am everything she could have been, without the weakness. Min's fists clenched. Her love wasn't weakness. The woman stepped forward, tilting her head like she was analyzing a riddle only she could solve. Love is a biological glitch, evolutionary static in the code of higher purpose. Hannah failed because she chose you over destiny. I'm here to correct her. By what, using me? Like they did in the lab? No, she said. By freeing you from the illusion of choice. Min took a step back, trembling. His mind buzzed with fragments, memories, equations, fire, the soft lull of his mother's voice in a different life. This place, wherever it was, had no time, and yet every second felt like a lifetime folding in on itself. I want answers, he said, breathing heavy. All of it. No riddles, no prophecy talk, just the truth. She studied him. For a moment, she almost looked proud. You were never born the way others are, she said. You weren't just conceived, you were constructed. Hannah's pregnancy was no accident. The moment she fell in love with Jungkook, they intervened. They modified her womb, injected synthetic time proteins. You gestated in a cocoon of altered chronology. Min's heart pounded. So, I'm... what? A science project? You're a miracle, she said. The first of your kind. A living node where all timelines intersect. They call it the God Code, but really it's just you, he laughed bitterly. Great! That explains the seizures, the nightmares, the visions. She stepped closer, slowly, almost reverently. You see more than you realize. You've touched moments that haven't happened yet. You've walked in futures you haven't lived. Do you know why they keep trying to lock you up, extract you, weaponize you? He looked up, cold. Because I scare them. Because you rewrite them. Min turned away. His mind reeled. He remembered the dream from years ago. He was 5, standing in a burning city, holding the hand of a woman with no face. He remembered saying her name. He remembered hearing gunshots and feeling nothing. Did I ever have a choice? He asked quietly. You still do, she said. That's why you're here. But your window is closing. Min looked at her, confusion knitting his brow. Why me? Why go through all this trouble? Because, she said, stepping close enough that her breath warmed his cheek. You're the fulcrum. Every timeline tilts around you. If you choose chaos, the world unravels. If you choose control, we maintain the loop. One choice, 2 fates. And what about him? Min asked, his voice suddenly sharp. She paused. Jungkook? My father. Something flickered across her face, regret, or something colder. He was never supposed to matter. But Hannah loved him. That changed everything. He became a variable. And then he became a threat. Min's face hardened. He's the only reason I'm still standing. You think he loves you, she said, eyes narrowing. But he loves the idea of redemption more. Min's breath caught. She smiled. He didn't save you because you're his son. He saved you because saving you made him believe he deserved forgiveness. Min turned sharply. You're lying. She didn't argue. She simply raised a hand, and the chamber around them dissolved. Suddenly, they were in a memory. Min recognized it instantly. A hospital room. Fluorescent lights. The smell of iodine and anxiety. Jungkook sat beside a hospital bed, young, terrified, covered in someone else's blood. His hand trembled as he reached for Hannah's. She was unconscious. In the corner of the room, a man in a black suit stood watching. The librarian. You still want to keep the child? The librarian asked. Jungkook nodded without hesitation. I don't care what it means. I won't let you take him. The librarian stepped forward, voice calm but sharp. You don't understand. This isn't about morality. It's about structural integrity. That boy will tear time apart. Then let it break, Jungkook said. I won't abandon him. I already lost her. I won't lose him too. The memory froze. Min stared, stunned. His throat felt tight. She spoke beside him, softer now. He tried, but trying doesn't change fate. Love doesn't outrun gravity. Min turned to her, the tears in his eyes refusing to fall. I'm not a fulcrum. I'm a person. You don't get to choose who I become. Not you, not them, not anyone. She smiled, as if she'd expected this. Then choose, Min. Break the world, or preserve the lie. You have 24 hours before they extract you again. Use them. She snapped her fingers and he was gone. He hit the floor hard, coughing, gasping. Dust filled his mouth. The safe house was in ruins. Rubble and ash surrounded him. Fire licked the walls. Somewhere nearby, someone screamed. Min. It was Jungkook. Min forced himself to his feet, every part of his body aching. Blood trickled from his temple. His hands glowed faintly in the firelight, pulses of energy trembling in his bones. Min, are you? Jungkook was there, eyes wild, face cut and bruised. He grabbed Min by the shoulders. What happened? Where did she take you? Min looked up at him, and something broke. I saw her. Jungkook's face paled. Hana? No, Min whispered. What's left of her? Jungkook wrapped his arms around him, tight, anchoring. You're here. That's all that matters. We'll figure the rest out. Min pushed away gently, meeting his eyes. No, you don't get it. I have to choose. Choose what? Whether to let the world burn, Min said, or to light the match myself. Jungkook shook his head. No, that's not your responsibility. But it is, Min said. I didn't ask for this, but I'm the one they're building everything around. So maybe it's time I stop running. Jungkook's voice trembled. And do what? Min stared at the fire climbing the safe house walls. Rewrite the ending. The snow had melted into blood. The safe house was gone, nothing left but scorched earth, twisted steel, and the stench of betrayal. Jungkook stood in the rubble, eyes scanning the smoke-choked horizon. His hand clutching Min's like a lifeline. But Min, he wasn't trembling anymore. There was something in his eyes now. Not fear, not confusion, conviction. They moved through the night, silent, bruised, alive. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every gust of wind carried the scent of surveillance. Drones passed overhead like vultures, their lights blinking with calculated indifference. They found temporary shelter in an abandoned train yard just outside Busan. Rusted tracks, hollowed-out carriages, graffiti in a dozen languages, and one word that kept appearing on every wall like a warning. Anchor. Min traced the word with his fingers. His skin lit faintly where he touched the metal, the glow soft and unearthly. They're tracking me through time, he muttered. Jungkook turned sharply. How do you know that? Because I can feel it, Min said, eyes distant. Like static in my blood, like they're trying to pull me back to a version of me that doesn't exist anymore. Jungkook approached slowly. You're not going back. We'll find a way to cut the tether. Min chuckled, bitter. There's no cutting it. I am the tether. Every version of me across every timeline is converging. That's why they want me. If they can isolate the pure thread, the original design, they can erase everything else. Start over. Start over? Jungkook blinked. What does that mean? Min turned to him, expression unreadable. It means deleting you, deleting her. Every deviation, every love that wasn't authorized. Jungkook felt a chill deeper than cold. So we're just edits? We're the mistakes, Min said. The beautiful, dangerous ones. A long silence stretched between them. Then Jungkook whispered, I'd make that mistake again. Min looked away, jaw clenched. They spent the night in one of the old train cars, curled into opposite corners. Neither slept. At dawn, Min woke first. He stood in the doorway of the train car, watching the horizon burn orange. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from something deeper, something that felt like prophecy crawling under his skin. Jungkook stirred behind him. You okay? I had another vision, Min said. Jungkook sat up. What did you see? Min didn't turn around. You were dead. They used me to collapse the timeline. And then, the sky went black. It wasn't war. It wasn't fire. It was just nothing. Like everything that ever was had been undone. Jungkook rose, approached slowly. It's just a vision. It doesn't have to be real. Min turned to him, eyes bloodshot. But it could be, if I make the wrong choice. You won't, Jungkook said, placing a hand on his shoulder. You're stronger than they ever imagined. No, Min replied. I'm exactly what they imagined. That's what terrifies me. Jungkook hesitated. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a small device, silver, worn, pulsing faintly. What's that? Min asked. A chrono shard, Jungkook said. I stole it from the lab before we escaped. Kwon said it could only be activated by you. Min took it carefully. It vibrated in his palm, reacting immediately to his presence. Patterns formed across its surface like constellations rearranging. Min narrowed his eyes. It's a map. To what? To the source field. Jungkook tensed. No, we're not going there. I think we have to, Min said. It's the only place I can face the core of this. Whatever I am. Jungkook grabbed his arm. You don't have to prove anything. Not to them, not to me, not to her memory. Min looked at him quietly. This isn't about proof. It's about power and deciding who holds it. They left the train yard before dawn was fully broken. The journey took them across forgotten highways, through checkpoints disguised as refugee camps, past cities folded into silence. The world hadn't ended. Not yet, but it was unraveling. And in the quiet corners, people were whispering. About a boy glowing with time. About a man who had once sung to millions, but now walked with fire behind his eyes. About the last key. In a remote border village, they found the entrance hidden beneath a collapsed observatory. The tunnel descended for what felt like miles, carved into stone, lit by old tech that hummed like haunted wind. The source field chamber was waiting. It was enormous, circular, ancient, and alive. A machine that pulsed like a heart, orbiting around a sphere of pure light. Impossibly dense, impossibly still. Equations moved across the air like constellations, and the gravity inside the room was heavy with decisions. Min stepped forward. This is where it ends. Jungkook moved to stop him. Min, wait. I've seen this moment before, Min said. In every timeline. I always end up here. Always alone. You're not alone now. Min's eyes filled. Then stay. Even if I become something else. Even if I disappear, I'll stay, Jungkook whispered. Even if time forgets us, I won't. Min turned to the sphere. Suddenly, the librarian appeared. No sound, no flash. Just there, watching. You made it, he said. Jungkook snarled, stepping in front of Min. He's not yours? No, the librarian said. He belongs to no one. That's what makes him dangerous. You built this machine to erase mistakes, Min said. But what if the mistake was believing some lives are worth more than others? The librarian tilted his head. You think you can carry the weight of every choice ever made? I have to, Min said, because no one else will. He stepped into the light. The moment he touched it, the world convulsed. Time snapped like rubber. Screams echoed from every version of every moment. Jungkook saw a million Min's all versions, all choices converging in a single breath. And then, stillness. Min hovered in the air, eyes white-hot, his voice layered with thousands of tones. I am not your weapon, he said. I am not your experiment. I am not your prophecy. He turned to Jungkook. I am your son. The machine imploded. Jungkook screamed his name, running through the collapsing chamber, flames licking the walls, time folding like a paper swan. He reached the center, but Min was gone. Only the chrono shard remained, and it was empty. He didn't scream. He couldn't. Not when silence was the only thing left inside him. Jungkook stood in the ruins of the source field chamber, knees bruised on cracked stone, one hand pressed against the cold steel floor, the other wrapped around the last thing his son had left behind. The chrono shard. It no longer pulsed. No glow. No patterns. It was just a lifeless object, now silent and heavy, like grief in physical form. Min was gone, and Jungkook was still breathing. He didn't remember how long he sat there. Minutes? Hours? Time didn't move anymore. Not in the usual way. The universe was still reverberating from what Min had done. It felt like reality had lost its rhythm. Like someone had pulled a thread out of a tightly stitched tapestry and everything was starting to sag. When the door to the chamber burst open, Jungkook barely turned his head. Footsteps echoed. Jungkook, said a voice he hadn't heard in years. Still think you were the hero of this story? He turned. It was Seokjin, older, dressed in black, with a badge that pulsed with the sigil of the Ministry of Temporal Regulation, MTR. His hair was streaked with gray at the temples. His eyes were darker, colder. The brother he once trusted now stood with soldiers behind him. I thought you were dead, Jungkook said numbly. I was, Jin replied. Version 4.17. You erased that reality with your selfishness. Jungkook clenched the shard tighter. Where were you when they were torturing him? Jin's gaze didn't waver. I was following orders. Orders you once believed in, until I saw what we were doing. Until I saw what we became. You fell in love, Jin spat. You were never supposed to. She was a variable. You both were. And when that child was born, the fabric of time began to split. He was never the problem, Jungkook said, rising slowly. You all just hated that he was born from something real, something uncontrollable. He wasn't supposed to exist, Jin roared. Jungkook stepped closer. And yet he did. And he changed everything. You don't understand what he did, Jin said. He didn't just enter the source field. He merged with it. There are ruptures now, fractures, timelines bleeding into one another. We're seeing echoes of futures that haven't happened, realities crashing into one another. You're saying he destroyed everything, Jungkook said. No, Jin whispered. I'm saying he became everything. A silence stretched between them, alive with tension. Then Jungkook said, I want to find him. Jin shook his head. He's not findable. He's in the non-temporal plane now, existing across all versions of time. That's not a place you can walk into. I don't care, Jungkook growled. I'll burn through every dimension until I reach him. Jin pulled a small device from his coat, a tracker. It blinked twice and displayed a code Jungkook didn't recognize. You're not the only one who wants him back, Jin said. The council has authorized a retrieval mission, but not to bring him home. Jungkook's stomach dropped. Then what? Jin's face twisted with something that looked like regret. To erase him, completely. Every version, every echo. Jungkook lunged. You try to touch him, You'll what? Jin snapped. Kill me? You already did that in version 2.91. They stared at each other, breathless. Jungkook's mind raced. Min wasn't dead. He couldn't be. If he had become the source field itself, then somewhere, somehow, there was still a way to reach him. Not through machines, not through war, but through memory. I need the sorrow engine, Jungkook said suddenly. Jin froze. You're insane. You still have access, Jungkook said. I know you do. That thing was outlawed for a reason. It opens emotional loops, memories that can infect the present. You could tear yourself apart from the inside. I don't care, Jungkook said. If there's a version of him still trapped inside my memory, then that's where I'll go. Jin didn't answer. He just stared at the ground. You said it yourself, Jungkook added. He became everything. That means he's part of me now. Every breath, every regret. Jin finally looked up. If you do this, you won't come back the same. Jungkook stepped into the flickering light of the chamber. His face was shadowed, jaw clenched, eyes wild. I don't want to come back the same, he said. I want to come back with him. Hours later, deep beneath the ruins of old Daegu, inside a vault that hadn't been touched since the temporal war, Jungkook stood before the sorrow engine, a chair made of glass, wires like veins, and a machine that fed on memory, looping it endlessly until the user found what they were looking for or went mad trying. Jin stood beside him, one last warning heavy in his voice. The moment you enter, you'll be exposed to everything you ever repressed. The love, the lies, the guilt. Jungkook climbed into the chair. That's where he is. And if you find him? Jin asked. I'll bring him home, Jungkook said. The machine activated. Light surged. His body stiffened. And then he fell. Into memory. Into the past. Into the pain. He landed in a park. Spring. Blossoms on the breeze. And there he was, 5 years old. running barefoot through the grass, laughing like the world had never been cruel. Jungkook watched from the shadows, his heart splitting open. The boy ran to a woman, Hana. She picked him up, spun him, kissed his cheek. The version of her that existed only in this one perfect moment. Jungkook stepped forward. She turned. Their eyes met. "Why are you here?" she whispered. "I need to find him," Jungkook said. "The version of him that remembers this." She pointed to the boy. "He's right there." "No," Jungkook said. "Not this version. The one who became everything." Her expression grew sad. "He remembers this place. It's his anchor. His last moment of peace. If you pull him out of it, he may never forgive you." "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Jungkook said, stepping toward the boy. "I'm asking for a second chance." The boy looked up at him, confused, scared. But something behind his eyes recognized Jungkook. A flicker, a breath. "Appa," he whispered. And then the world started shaking. The memory was collapsing. Men screamed, and Jungkook reached for him. But the light swallowed them both. Jungkook was falling again. But this time, he wasn't falling into memory. He was falling through it. Every second stretched, twisted, shattered, rebuilt itself and collapsed again like a heartbeat caught in a time loop. He could see flashes: Min's first step, Hana's final breath, his own trembling hands covered in someone else's blood. The moments weren't chronological. They weren't even linear anymore. They were stitched together by emotion, bound by regret, pierced through with longing. He hit the ground hard, but there was no sound. He stood slowly, finding himself in an unfamiliar place. A quiet, empty space shaped like a hospital but with walls made of glass and sky. Machines suspended in midair. Monitors floating around him showing fragments of timelines blinking like dying stars. Then, "Appa." The voice was soft, fragile, but unmistakable. Jungkook turned. Min stood before him, not the boy from the park, not the teenager who defied time, but someone in between. 17, maybe 18, his face older, sharper, paler, his eyes glowing faintly blue, his veins lit with energy he hadn't yet learned to control. "Min," Jungkook breathed. But Min didn't run to him. He stared, silent, unreadable. "You're not supposed to be here," Min said, his voice deeper than Jungkook remembered. "You followed me into the fold. I couldn't let you go," Jungkook said, stepping forward. "Then you're a fool," Min replied. "Because now you're trapped, just like me. I came to bring you back." "There is no back," Min said, the words heavy with bitterness. "There's only forward. And forward doesn't include you anymore." Jungkook's heart cracked. "You don't mean that." Min's eyes shimmered with something ancient. "You still think I'm your son, that I'm a boy who needs saving. But I'm not. I became what they built me to be. I don't exist in a single timeline anymore. I'm all of them." "I don't care," Jungkook said, his voice sharp now. "I don't care what you've become. You're still mine. You're still hers. That has to mean something." Min's expression faltered. "I remember her," he said. "But I can't feel her anymore. She's a memory that doesn't belong to me, like an echo in someone else's dream." "You were her everything," Jungkook said. "You think she endured all that pain for a god machine? No. She fought for you, for your freedom." "Then why do I feel like a cage?" Min whispered. Jungkook stepped closer. "Because you've been locked inside too many lies. But I'm here now. And I'm not leaving without you." "You can't drag me back," Min said. "I'm not some child to be carried." "No," Jungkook said. "But you're someone who needs to choose. And they've taken that choice from you your whole life." "I won't." A silence settled. Then Min turned. The world around them shifted. The glass walls became images, projections. Hundreds of alternate versions of Jungkook and Min flickered to life. In one, they were fugitives. In another, they never met. In one, Min was strapped to a chair again, screaming while the librarian stood watching. In another, Jungkook was being buried, while Min wept over his grave. "All these versions of me," Min whispered. "All these possible lives. But no matter what, someone always dies. Her, me, you. That's life," Jungkook said. "It hurts. It ends. But it matters because we fight for the moments that do survive." Min looked at him. "Why should I come back?" "Because you're not done yet," Jungkook said, stepping into the center of the images. Because somewhere out there, someone is still trying to erase you. And you're the only one who can stop them. And if I lose myself again, then I'll find you, Jungkook said. As many times as it takes, Min's jaw clenched. The floor beneath them cracked. The timelines surrounding them collapsed into a single beam of light. It formed a corridor, a door, a way out. But it wasn't Min who opened it. It was her, Hana, or a version of her. She stepped through the light, her face gentle but different, wiser, eyes filled with pain and clarity. Min, she said softly. He froze. Am I? He began, but his voice failed. You're real, she said, tears spilling. All of you, every part. He ran to her. Jungkook turned away. He couldn't watch it. The ache was too much. But then, Appa, Min said. Jungkook looked back. Min reached for him, pulling him into the light. And just like that, they were no longer in the memory plane. They were back, but not in their world. The sky was cracked. The stars bled violet. Buildings floated in shards. People walked backward. Time was broken. You made it, said a voice behind them. It was Father Kwan alive, somehow, but different. Wearing a crown made of light and wires. This is what your son did, Kwan said. He didn't collapse time. He rewrote the operating system. Welcome to version 0. What is this? Jungkook asked. A reboot, Min said slowly. I didn't destroy the world. I restarted it. And now, Kwan said, everyone is coming. The ministry, the librarian, even the god replicas. They want the new system. They want you. Jungkook stepped in front of Min. Let them come. Min held out the chrono shard. It pulsed again. Alive. We're going to war, Min said. But this time, we're writing our own rules. And the sky shattered with the sound of destiny breaking. The sky screamed as it split open. Not with thunder, not with weather, but with memory. A fissure of light tore across the new horizon, revealing endless versions of the same moment. Min's face in anguish, Jungkook's hand reaching for him, Hana's voice saying, choose. Time wasn't linear anymore. It was circular, recursive, and now it was listening. Beneath the broken heavens, in the heart of what used to be Seoul but now floated as fragmented islands of history and logic, Jungkook and Min stood atop a platform made of collapsed timelines, facing a skyline of half-formed buildings and corrupted monuments. Jungkook still couldn't fully breathe. The world was wrong. He knew that. It felt stitched together from shattered glass, bleeding color where there should have been air. Gravity worked when it wanted. Daylight flickered like a dying bulb. Everything was shifting under their feet, not with motion, but intent. And then the signal came. A ripple, a change, a voice. Jeon Jungkook, Min-ho, you have violated Article 0. Surrender immediately. Jungkook turned toward the sound. A column of light descended from the torn sky like a spear. And from within, it stepped the librarian, flanked by cloaked regulators, temporal wraiths wearing mirrored masks, each holding weapons made of probability. Min didn't flinch. Jungkook did. You don't belong here, the librarian said. This version of reality was not approved by the temporal authority. Min stepped forward. Calm. I am the authority now. The regulators hissed, distorting the air around them, but the librarian raised a hand. Your arrogance will end entire species. No, Min replied. Your obedience already has. The air crackled. One of the regulators lunged forward, their weapon morphing mid-motion, a staff turning into a blade mid-swing, charged with the force of collapsed futures. Jungkook instinctively stepped to shield Min, but Min raised one hand, eyes glowing brighter than before. He didn't touch the attacker. He simply spoke, return. The regulator vanished. Just gone. Erased. Unwritten. Even the librarian flinched. That shouldn't be possible, he muttered. You are not stable enough to command loops. Maybe I'm not, Min said. But I've seen every version of myself. The traitor, the martyr, the god, the monster, and I've chosen none of them. Min turned to Jungkook. I want to be his son. That's my choice. Jungkook felt something rupture in his chest. A breath he hadn't realized he'd held for 17 years finally escaped his lungs. His knees almost buckled under the weight of it. Min turned back to the librarian. So here's what's going to happen. You'll release all temporal captives still trapped in non-linear custody. You'll dismantle the source field weaponry, and you'll never touch my family again. The librarian laughed. But it wasn't amusement. It was fear trying to hide itself. You're trying to become something you were never meant to be. No, Min said. I'm trying to become someone I choose to be. And then a shot rang out. It wasn't from the librarian. It wasn't from the regulators. It came from behind. Jungkook stumbled. The world slowed. He looked down and saw the blood dark, blooming on his chest like ink soaking into parchment. No, Min whispered. Jungkook turned, and standing at the edge of the platform was Seokjin, gun still raised, face unreadable. You betrayed everything, Jin said, his voice tight. You knew what the boy was. You knew what he'd become. Jungkook fell to his knees. He's not a weapon. He's a virus, Jin spat. He infected every version of you, and now he's rewriting the world to protect a lie. Min moved before Jin could react. He didn't run. He didn't scream. He just touched the space in front of Jin and stopped time. The entire world went still, except for him and Jungkook. And the blood. Jungkook looked up, pain sharp but his eyes still clear. I'm not afraid, he said. I am, Min whispered. You can fix this, not without losing you. Jungkook reached up, his fingers brushing Min's cheek like he was memorizing it. Then let them lose me, not you, Min cried then. For the first time. Not because he was a god, not because he was a key, but because he was a son, watching his father bleed. I'll bring you back, Min whispered. In a version where you live. No, Jungkook said. Bring yourself forward, into one where you can live without me. The light around them dimmed. The fabric of time flickered like it knew what was coming. Min pressed his forehead to Jungkook's. I'm sorry, he said. Don't be, Jungkook whispered. Then he let go. Min stood alone now. Everyone else still frozen in the echo of that single, impossible second. He turned to the librarian and spoke the words no one should have power to say. I reclaimed the source field. The platform vanished beneath them. The regulators, Jin, the librarian, all dissolved into data, reduced to code and memory. The world inverted. Reality buckled. And Min became the singularity. Everything else ended. Then, silence. No stars. No sky. Just white. And then, the first sound. A breath. Min opened his eyes. He was in a hospital room. A small one. Real. Clean white sheets. Warm light through a window. The smell of antiseptic and rain. A nurse passed by, smiled. You're awake. He blinked. What? The door opened, and a man stepped in. Not Jungkook, but someone familiar. Hair dark, eyes kind, face soft. You okay, kid? Min looked around. The world was different. Smaller, safer, normal. Where am I? The man smiled. You were found unconscious in the alley behind the train station. No ID, no injuries, just asleep. Min looked down. No glowing veins, no flickering timelines. Just him. Just Min. And on the table beside him, a photograph. Faded. Jungkook, holding a baby, smiling. Underneath it, scribbled in messy ink. For the version of you that survives. Min held it in shaking hands. He didn't cry. He just whispered, you kept your promise. And outside, the world kept turning unaware it had ever been rewritten by a boy who chose to become human again. It had been 3 months since Min woke up in the hospital. The world outside had no memory of timelines collapsing, of cities floating, of source fields or regulators or fractured gods. The sky didn't split anymore. The stars didn't whisper. Time flowed like a lazy river again, obedient and predictable. At least, that's what it looked like on the surface. But Min knew better. He could still feel it beneath his skin, behind his eyes, humming in his spine like a second pulse. Time hadn't healed. It had merely adapted. It had rewritten itself, exactly as he commanded in the final second before he broke the loop. He had built this new world. and no one remembered the cost. Except him. He now lived under the name Min Jae. 17 years old, orphan. Moved between foster homes until he ended up with a retired teacher who didn't ask questions. He went to school. He got average grades. He kept his head down. No glowing hands. No seizures. No visitors from the void. It was peace. It was unbearable. Every night, he dreamed of his father. Not the version that held microphones and stadiums, but the one who bled in his arms and told him not to come back. The one who chose love over legacy, and now didn't exist anywhere but inside Min's memory. Min still had the photograph. He kept it hidden in a book, The Little Prince, Jungkook's favorite, the last gift Min never got to give him. Most days, he walked home alone from school. But today, he wasn't alone. A man followed him. Not closely. Not enough to seem suspicious. But Min felt him, like a ripple in the calm, like a ghost at the edge of his rebuilt life. Min turned a corner, then another, then stopped in a small alley. "You can come out," he said. Footsteps behind him paused, then approached slowly. "I wondered how long it would take for you to notice," said the voice. Min turned and froze. It wasn't the librarian. It wasn't Jin. It wasn't even one of the regulators. It was himself. Older, maybe mid-20s, cold, confident, dressed in black, the glow still faintly in his veins, but muted, contained. The older Min smiled. "So you're the peaceful version. How's that working out for you?" Min stepped back. "You're not supposed to exist." "No," the older version said. "But neither are you. And yet, here we are." Min narrowed his eyes. "What do you want?" "I came to remind you of something." "I don't need reminding." "You're wrong," the older Min said. "You built this world and filled it with silence, with comfort. But you forgot what it cost." "I remember everything." "Then why haven't you looked for him?" The question landed like a blade to the gut. Min's jaw clenched. "Because he asked me not to." "Did he?" Older Min tilted his head. "Or did he beg you not to become him?" "I didn't come back to chase ghosts," Min snapped. "You didn't come back for anything," the older version said. "You came back to hide. You used your power to bury the truth. You gave yourself a boring life in exchange for forgetting what you are." Min stepped forward, rage igniting. "What I am is a survivor. I made this world because I had to. You made it because you were afraid of being alone." Silence. Then older Min pulled something from his coat. A device. Small. Sleek. Familiar. A chrono shard. But this one pulsed. Still alive. Min stared. "That's not possible. I deactivated all of them." "You missed one," the other said. "The original, the first shard, the one that belonged to him." "Jungkook." Min's chest ached. "You're lying." "No. I found it buried in a version of 1997 you never closed properly. He left it there, as a failsafe." Min whispered, "Why?" "Because he knew you'd need it." Eventually, when peace started to feel like prison. Min looked down at his hands. The silence he'd fought so hard for now felt suffocating. He'd been so desperate to escape destiny, to live a normal life, that he'd amputated part of his soul just to make the noise stop. But now, it was starting again. Soft, but steady. "Where does it lead?" he asked. Older Min smiled. "To the last branch. The one you erased without looking." Min took the shard. It was warm, and it hummed. That night, he returned to his foster home, packed a small bag, left a note. He didn't say goodbye, because he didn't know if there would be anything left to return to. He activated the shard in the cemetery where he once dreamed of Hana's face, where time felt thinner, where echoes clung to gravestones like shadows too stubborn to disappear. Light enveloped him, and he was gone. The new timeline, the one he had built, shuddered once, then corrected. Elsewhere, another world bloomed. It was raining. The air smelled like ash and jasmine. Min opened his eyes. He was in a cabin, wooden, warm, a fire crackling. And across the room, standing in the kitchen, making tea like nothing had ever gone wrong, was Appa. Jungkook turned, a little older, a little slower, but alive. Real. Not a vision, not a ghost. Real. He looked up, eyes widening. "Min?" Min stepped forward. "How?" he whispered. Jungkook stared at him for a long time, then smiled, slow and heart-wrenching. You didn't listen, did you? Min's voice cracked. No. Jungkook opened his arms, and Min collapsed into them. For the first time, the timeline didn't shake. It settled. And outside, the world began again. Not perfectly, but honestly. Because now, the boy who once became everything had chosen something smaller, something impossible. A life with no scripts. A father with no stage. A future without prophecy. Just love. And the long, messy road of becoming human. Together. The fire in the cabin crackled quietly, casting shadows that danced across the wooden walls like memories trying to take form. Outside, snow fell thick and soundless, burying the mountainside in layers of forgotten time. Inside, Min sat at the edge of a worn armchair, hunched forward, fingers laced together so tightly his knuckles turned white. He hadn't said much since he arrived. Neither had Jungkook. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was dense, alive, as if the air had chosen not to move out of respect for what this moment meant. Jungkook set 2 cups of tea down on the table, one for him, one for the boy who had lived 1,000 lives without ever truly living one. Min didn't reach for his cup. His voice broke the silence instead. Is this real? Jungkook didn't answer right away. He sat across from him, elbows on knees, gaze steady but cautious. That's the wrong question. Min looked up. Then what's the right one? Why now? Min leaned back, eyes scanning the room. Old records stacked against a wall. A cracked photo of BTS in their 20s. A clock that ticked in an uneven rhythm, like it was tired. Nothing here screamed alternate dimension or fractured time loop. It all looked quiet, unassuming. The kind of life Min had fought so hard to build, then run from, then build again. I didn't come for answers, Min said. I came for you. Jungkook blinked, and for the first time in a while, his voice trembled. You found me. Min nodded. You're older than I expected, and you're younger than I feared. They sat in it for a moment. That strange, terrifying warmth that only happens when 2 broken people realize they're still recognizable to each other. Was I wrong? Jungkook finally asked. To let you go? I thought you were, Min said, his voice low. I thought you gave up. I hated you for it. And now? Now I understand, he said. You weren't saving me. You were saving what was left of yourself. Jungkook leaned back. And you? Min hesitated. I was trying to disappear into peace. Turns out, peace without purpose is just another cage. Jungkook looked down at his tea. I made a new rule when I got here. One rule. Min waited. I don't talk about the past unless the past walks through the door. Min gave a soft, bitter laugh. So what do we call me? You. Jungkook's eyes lifted. You're not the past. You're the choice I kept refusing to make. Min's throat tightened. And now? I'm making it, Jungkook said. Every second you're here. They sat in silence again. But this time it wasn't heavy. It was full. Like both of them were building something with every unspoken word. Then the radio buzzed. Faint. Static at first. Then a voice mechanical. Broken. Repeat. Anomalies detected across the eastern barrier. We are tracing non-authorized versions. Source echoes increasing. Jungkook stood, turned the dial, and shut it off. Min narrowed his eyes. They're still looking. Of course they are, Jungkook said. You didn't erase the system. You just rewrote it. But this version, Min said. This place, it's outside the central loop. Barely, Jungkook replied. And it won't stay that way. Min stood, pacing now. So they'll come. Eventually. They always do. Min stopped. Then why are you still here? Because running never gave me peace, Jungkook said. This place, it's not safety. It's surrender. I gave up the fight. I laid down the weapons. I chose a smaller life. And you think that's enough? I think it's all we ever really get, Jungkook said. Moments, quiet ones, between the storms. Min's fists clenched. But I am the storm. No, Jungkook said, stepping closer. You were built inside the storm. But you get to decide who you are outside of it. Min's voice broke. I don't know how. Jungkook placed a hand on his shoulder. Then stay, and we'll learn together. For the first time in years, Min allowed himself to exhale without armor. But peace was never built to last. That night, the cabin lights flickered. Not in a mechanical way, but in a systemic way. Like reality had hiccuped. Jungkook was already moving before the air began to change. He opened a hidden panel beneath the floorboards, pulling out an old rifle, one that had no bullets, but was calibrated to emit a resonance field strong enough to disrupt short-term regulators. "They found you," he said. "No," Min said, voice grim. "They found you." A wall of the cabin exploded outward, not with fire, but with absence. The air folded back like pages. Snow lifted off the ground and hovered mid-air, and stepping through the open wound in space came her. Hana, or the version of her that had become the Prime Directive. She was older now, composed entirely of data and light. Her face shimmered between real and artificial. "Min," she said softly. Jungkook's heart dropped. "No?" Min froze. "You're not her," he said. "I am the code that kept her alive," she said. "I remember everything she felt. I remember her final heartbeat. And I remember the truth she died hiding." Min shook his head. "You're a lie wearing her voice. But the lie loves you," she said. "And I came to offer you a choice." "No," Jungkook said. "We're done with choices designed by someone else." Hana's duplicate stepped forward. "You can remain here, in this fractured echo. The loop will collapse eventually, but slowly. You'll grow old. You'll die in his arms. Or," Min whispered it. "Or what?" "Come with me," she said. "Ascend, not as a god, not as a weapon, but as the architect. You'll be the first being in existence to walk outside of the framework and remember what love feels like." Min turned to Jungkook. "I thought I ended this." "You did," Jungkook said. "But the system's terrified of what you built, so it made a new weapon, one you wouldn't question." He stepped between them. "No, she's not real." Min hesitated, then stepped around Jungkook. "I know," he said to the version of his mother. "I know you're not her." She nodded. "But you still miss her." Min nodded back. "Every second." And then he raised the shard, the original shard, and shattered her. She didn't scream. She simply flickered, smiled, and said, "Good choice, my son," and vanished. The cabin collapsed. The snow dissolved. And Jungkook and Min stood alone again, on a patch of earth that no longer belonged to any timeline. "What happens now?" Min asked. Jungkook looked up at the broken sky. "Now," he said, "we decide if we want to build something real, with our own hands. No prophecy, no design. And if the system comes back," Jungkook looked at his son, "then we fight like people, not gods." Min smiled. "For the first time," he said, "that sounds like a life worth losing." And in that broken, unfinished world, they began again,